Hello everybody, welcome to a new tutorial with PSDBox. I'm Andrei and this is the first tutorial of 2021, and today I want to show you how to create this creative double exposure effect in Photoshop. It's an intermediate tutorial, so you need the basics of Photoshop. Again, I remind you that I have a free Photoshop course, a quick course that introduces you to Photoshop in case you are new to Photoshop. And you have all the resources that you need for this tutorial in the video description. There you'll find a link that will take you to my website, and from there you can download all the stock images on the original size, so you can follow along with this. Of course, you can do your own thing. You can use different stock images, especially for the inside part of this girl that you see here on the screen, the silhouette. But I will show you the techniques that I used. We will use just basic layer masks and basic selections, and I will show you how to use the calculations method to extract a subject from a background. It's going to be a simple example, but I hope it works for you to understand how to use this technique for other images. That being said, if you're a premium member, you can download the PSD file from my website and also from YouTube if you're a premium member here on YouTube. Again, let me just repeat this. If you're a premium member on YouTube, you will not have access to my website. So those are different memberships. So if you're a premium member here on YouTube, you have to go to the community tab and download the PSD file from there. And it's a separate membership than on my website. I say this because some people ask me why they cannot access files from my website. That being said, I hope you will enjoy it, and let's get started. So this is the PSD file. If you're a premium member and if you download this, you will see that inside of this folder, which is called manip or manipulation, it's not going to be. You will not find the same structure as we will do here on the tutorial. On the tutorial, we'll make it a little easier because I wanted to start with something different, and I ended up with this. That's why it's kind of a chaotic PSD file. But anyways. Let's start our manipulation. I'm gonna leave this here on the screen so I can check it if I need to. So in order to create our canvas, open the resources folder, and inside of here you will find all the images that we will use for this. So start with this image. I got it from pexels.com. You can use the whole image like the original size, but I will make it smaller. I'll make it 2300 for the tutorial because I'm also recording the video. You can also crop it from the top if you want to and just leave this view without this part over here, but anyways. So we will start by first removing this from the window and replacing that background. And after that we will deal with the hair. I will show you how to recreate the hair and we will continue from there. I will use the pen tool, so press the P key to get the pen tool, set the option to path and start creating a path around the window. I will fast forward here because it's easy, and as I said, this is a intermediate level tutorial, so I'm not going to explain how each tool works. You can check my free Photoshop course if you want to. So I'll see you when I'm done. When you're done making the path, right click, choose make selection, click OK, and fill that selection with black on the layer mask, and this will get rid of the background. Now I will continue with the top part as well. Now you can keep these two elements over here. I excluded them just to go a little quicker, but you can keep them if you want to. Also, if you want to make things a little more realistic, you could blur a little bit the edges, but I will not do it here on the tutorial. And let's place that new background there. So let's open again our stock folder, on the resources folder, and get this image over here, which is this stormy city, and just place it underneath that layer of yours. Now let's make it a little bigger, and place it in such a way that the silhouette of the woman is still visible. So don't put it like that, because that black side will merge with the woman's face and we want to see the silhouette. So place it somewhere like that. When you're happy with the selection, you can see that my image right now, if I press Ctrl-Command-T, it's very big, and this will make my document be very big, and I don't want that. So what I will do is, once I'm happy with the position of this, I will press Ctrl-Command-A with this layer of the, let's name it city. With this layer still selected, Ctrl-A, right-click and choose, first select the lasso tool, right-click, layer via copy. And this will just copy this selection onto a new layer. So now if I move it, you can see that it's just this part. Now I can discard the bottom one, and now everything that was outside the canvas is discarded, because that way I will keep my document on a smaller size. And now I'll go to filter, blur gallery, and I will use the fill blur, because I like to use the fill blur instead of the Gaussian, but you can use the Gaussian blur as well if you want to. Just blur this a little bit. Make sure you still want to see the details that this is actually a city. Also pay attention to the height where you place these buildings. If you place them right here, it's gonna look weird. You have to create the illusion that this woman stands a little higher and the cities, while these buildings are a little lower. I will probably use about 18 for my canvas size. As I said, you still want to see the details of the background there. If you zoom in 100%, you can see how it looks like. This keeps the woman in focus, and we center all the attention here. Let's rename this back to city, and I'll name this base. This is our base layer, and this is our city layer. The next thing we want to do is fix a little bit parts of the image. Let's create a new layer on top, and let's name it darkness. Get the brush tool, use a soft brush, opacity and flow 30 and 40 maybe, something like that. It really depends on how you like to paint. If you have a graphics tablet, maybe you want to activate the pen pressure. It really depends on how you work. Clip this darkness layer to the base layer, and that way we make sure we don't paint on the background on that city. And also you can fix this little parts over here. But before we do that, actually, let's just select the base layer, and I'll add some curves on. If you turn this into a smart object, it will be easier, but I didn't do it, so I'll just use an adjustment layer. I will use levels because it's easier. And what I want to do here is just move this a little more to the right to just darken the whole thing here, because it was not completely black, and I want it to be darker, and also the midtones a little bit. And that's it. I want to have more like of a silhouette. You can even desaturate it if you really want. Actually, not entirely, to about -50 or 60, and that will be good enough. And again, as I said, here you can try and fix this. If you're happy with this, you could even merge the darkness, the levels, and the base. You can merge them, but you will lose the layer mask. So make sure you are happy with the layer mask before you do that, or you can actually convert them into a smart object, and that way you keep the editing capabilities. Let's deal with the hair. Here you have a couple of choices. You can either leave this as it is and just lighten a bit the background. As you can see, no one could really tell that this is actually part of the old background, but what you could do is create this layer mask, or if you keep the other one, just keep that. And with a soft brush, let's say opacity and flow 20 and 30, you could gently paint over this and just hide part of that background. Especially it was kind of too bright, so you could paint with a layer mask and reveal the background behind. But as I said, this is just optional. On the original, I actually deleted most of it, and I just painted back some of the hair, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. No one could really tell that this is actually the old background. Now, let's deal with the hair. Now, on this layer mask that I have here, again, if you have the other layer mask, just fine. Just paint with this brush to get rid of the hair. I'm gonna put the opacity and flow to 100%. I will increase the hardness, just a little bit, and just paint to soften a little bit these edges, because I will repaint the hair. Now, if you still have the original layer mask, it's going to be easier, because I want to use part of the original image as reference to repaint the hair. So what I will do is just bring the original image back in here. So I'll just open this image and just crop this part, copy it, and paste it right over here again on top of the original image. Just make it a little smaller. I want to have it here as a reference because I want to repaint the hair. So how I will do that? Well, I'll create a new layer underneath the base layer, which, remember, in my case is just a smart object that contains that levels layer and also the darkness layer. So I will create a new layer underneath the base and just name it hair. Get the brush tool, hardness 100%, opacity and flow 100%. I will check the transfer option because I have the graphics tablet, but you can do it with the mouse just as well. You could change this instead of, on the shape dynamics, also check that. And I will set this to pen pressure. If you don't have a graphics tablet, you could use fade and just use a higher amount here. Instead of 25, you could use maybe, I don't know, 200. I think this is in pixels, but I'm not sure. So maybe use something like 500 or something like that. And this is what happens. It's just going to fade away as you draw. So you could make stuff like that. If that's useful, use it. If not, just use a 1 pixel brush and that's it. Just paint with the mouse. With the graphics tablet, it's a little easier. So 1 pixel, opacity and flow 100%. Set this to pen pressure. The transfer, I will set this the minimum to about here, to about 50. And just start painting. It's not difficult, but you need some, it takes some time and some practice is needed as well. Let me just put this right over here. I want to paint this part, so I'm going to just use this as a reference. Again, I think, go back to the layers, to that hair layer, and just sample from here and just paint this. I will move to fast forward here because it's just painting like this. It's not difficult, but it takes some time. So I will just fast forward a bit so you can see how I do it. Okay, so this is how it looks like. I went really quick here, but if you spend some time and just use that reference and just paint as much hair as you can, you will get much better results. Just take a look at the original here, what I did. All of this hair here is painted, so everything here is painted. So it's not difficult, but you need some practice with it. So I'll delete now the reference image. This is how it looks with the hair. Looks like I painted on the reference image, which is a huge mistake. And we're good to go. This is how it looks without the hair and with the painted hair. It's not really that difficult, but you need to pay some attention to some details. Also on this same hair layer, I will paint the eyelashes here. It's not difficult. Again, you can use the reference. Let me just copy that part of the eye here and put it back in here. Just refine some parts, and I will leave it like that. Not really that difficult, and I made it really quick. But you'll definitely get back some of those details that you lost when you cropped the image. Now we're done with the basic setup here of this background and on the scene. The fun part starts now. We have to create that hole in here and add the rest of the details. That part is really easy. You have two options here. You can create a shape and then create all the rest of the layers as clipping masks, or you can create a group, create a new layer, group it, and then create the layer mask, and everything that you have inside of that group will only be visible where you painted that layer mask. So I will use the group option, but if you have an older version of Photoshop, you cannot create layer masks to groups. So what you will have to do is create the shape and then create clipping masks to that shape, which will act basically as a container. So let's name this shape. Well, I created a group with the name shape, and now I'll create a layer mask. I'll select that layer mask of the group. Let me just group the base, and it's easier for you to see. So I have the base, which is everything that I have right now, and then I created a group on top of it, which I named shape. I create a layer mask for it, select the lasso tool, and select this layer mask, which is right now is white. And let me just check the shape really quick, more or less, to see how I created, like that. Okay, now just go in here, create a shape like this. You can create irregular shapes. We need something like jagged edges. We don't need straight edges, so make it the best you can. Now I'll have to expand this, but I'll do it later. And now I'll fill this selection. I'll fill it with black. Now nothing will happen because there's nothing inside of this group. So in order to see better what you're doing on this layer, let's fill it with a solid color. So, and you can see that the layer mask is inverted, so press Ctrl-Command-I. Okay, this is what we have so far. Okay, we have a group and we have a filled layer with black, and because the group has this layer mask, we only see this part of it. Now I'll have to get the lasso tool again and just keep editing the shape because I have to bring it all the way down. And now fill this with black to, with white to expand it. This shape is okay, but you can see that here we have some jagged edges. You can leave it as it is if you like it like that, or you can go a step further and get the brush tool and use any brush that has irregular shapes. I just have the default brushes here in Photoshop, so I'll get this one maybe and open the brush settings. If you don't have them here on this panel, go to Window and choose brush settings or press F5, and I'll deactivate the shape dynamics, or actually I'll check it, but I'll deactivate the pen pressure setting. And on the brush tip shape, I will increase the spacing and go back to the shape dynamics, change the angle, jitter. Also, probably I'll deactivate texture, I don't need it. Probably increase a little the size of it. Basically what I'm looking for is, you see these edges right now, these are like irregular shaped edges, which is exactly what I want. And with this brush, you can go along and paint with white to just kind of create randomly jagged edges. Probably on the brush, I would also change the size jitter so that I have more randomly shaped tip shapes of the brush. And just go along wherever you see you have like really straight edges, just give it a pass with the brush. We have the mask ready. The benefit of using this technique instead of using clipping masks is that with just one simple layer mask, you have everything ready. We're done with this. Let's start adding the background here, so we have that way we can get rid of this color here. Let's open our stock image. I'll start with this one. This will be the base. If you don't want to add that girl with the swing, you can actually just add this single image. Let me just show you really quick. You can put this here inside of the group and just paste that in here and just place it somewhere there. And you can actually go along with this and just add the rest of the details that we will add next. But I wanted to go a little further and just create something a little more custom made. But you can see you can create something like this. It's really simple. Just replace or place in here whatever you like, and you don't have to go crazy with the details especially if you're new to Photoshop, or if you don't have time, or you don't want to go too far with this. But I'll just do it how I did it originally, which is I got rid of this this kid over here. Just select it like this, go to edit, fill, and choose content aware, click OK, and Photoshop will get rid of this. And now I can copy this and place it here without that kid. I will delete now this colored layer, it just served the purpose already. I'll place this right over here for now. I'll have to change the size and everything, but for now I'll leave it there. And now I'll open the second image for my background, which is this one. Again, you can use this image alone. Let me just show you that. You can use that image alone to have something like this, and then maybe add something there on the bottom part if you like to. This image I used it for the moon because I liked it. Make sure it covers the whole thing there. Place it like so, and now create a layer mask for it, for this layer. And I'll use the gradient, black to white, normal. Let's see if I have to reverse it. No, looks like it's okay. And I'll create a gradient from here to about there maybe. And now I'll go to this other image, to this one. And I'll turn it into a smart object because I will change the size of it, and I'm not sure which will be the original size. Maybe I have to size it back up, and I don't want to lose quality on it. So I'll just place it somewhere where it fits. I have to edit this layer mask. Let me see if I create it. Yeah, maybe if I create it down here, it's gonna blend a lot better. Let me try some angles. Oh, not that much. Yeah, somewhere there. I think it looks good enough, at least for me. Now we have the background there. You can actually turn both layers into smart object, and that way you have one single layer, which I'll name inside background. Now let's add some details. For that I use the brushes, and you'll find them on the inside of the resources folder. One of them is the vegetation brushes, and the second one is the birds brushes, and then we have the girl. So let's start with the vegetation brushes. I think I already have them loaded here. Yep, here they are. Just open them in Photoshop. You can click here when you open the brushes panel, right, select the brush, right click, and choose import brushes or load brushes, or depending on the Photoshop version that you are using. And let's start with the bottom. Select this grass brush first and create a new layer on top of the inside background layer, but still from now on we will only work inside of this group, because we have this layer mask which prevents everything that we're painting from being visible. It only be visible inside of this shape. That's why we used it. It's like a master layer mask. So let's name this plants 1. Maybe we'll create more, but anyways, for now let's name it plants 1. Use the black color on the brush, and I'll get the mouse for this. Just make a few clicks and create some grass. Something like that. And now I have more plants. Just add a few plants here. So you will see that the brush is pretty big, so adjust the size accordingly. That's one. Let's add another one, maybe a little bigger here on this other side. Use another plant, maybe smaller there and there, and just use any of the plants that you see here if you like them. You can even put like maybe a couple here kissing, or I don't know, just give your imagination room to just explore everything you can add in here, or just use Pinterest to get more inspiration from there. Let's use this other brush from this for this. These are like hanging plants. This will make this thing a little more interesting. Let me just flip this on the X, and not just have like empty edges. Okay, so I think it's going to look a little more interesting. Just fill in the scene with some details, and I think I'll leave it like that. The next part of the details process is creating the particles that you can see right over here. You have several options to do this. I think the easiest one is to just create the brush yourself, and I will show you how to do that because I think everybody should know how to create this. But you can also use stock images if you have them, dirt or explosion or debris or something like that. But let's create the brush ourselves because it's really easy. So create a new layer on top of everything. So outside of this shape group, outside of everything, You don't even have to give it a name because it's going to be just a temporary layer. And create a square like this and fill it with white. And inside of this square, we will create all of this debris, which will become our brush. I actually have a few ones myself created over here, but let's create one from scratch. Select the lasso tool and make sure you paint inside of this white square, and use the foreground color black for this, and just create a few random shapes. Try not to create round shapes like that, but just use random shapes. You can see here some samples from that stock image over there, and just random shapes. You don't have to create too many. Also, don't put them in a straight line. Don't try to place them in random positions. Another one there, and probably another one smaller over here. So once you have that, control click the thumbnail of this square to select everything, and go to edit and choose define brush preset. Now you will notice that everything that is white will become transparent, and only these shapes that we created here will become our brush. Let's name this debris 1 and press OK. Now we can delete this layer with everything that is inside of it. We no longer need it. And let's create a new layer above the plants, and let's name it particles 1 or debris or whatever you want to call it. Now, with this layer created, we have to open the brush settings. And right now I will just make a few tests here so you can see how it evolves, the behavior. Right now, if I paint, let me just make sure I have everything ready. For some reason I'm not painting. Oh yeah, because I'm inside of the group. That's the purpose of it, so it works. Now if I just paint a straight line, this is how it looks like. But we have to change the behavior of this. First, let's increase the spacing a little bit. You can see here on this preview window how the brush changes. Activate shape dynamics, increase the angle jitter to whatever size you want. I just put it to about 90%. Change the roundness jitter, the angle jitter, sorry, and the size jitter as well. Do not increase this too much, otherwise you will get some really small particles and some of them really big, so you don't want that. Between 20 and 40%, I think it's okay. And on the scattering, also increase that just a little bit, not too much. I would say to about 150, not much more than that. It's not necessary, I think. And if I paint now, you can see how now this changed. Okay, maybe on the size jitter I would increase it just a little more. And if you increase the spacing, you would probably want to go back to scattering and increase the count. This will add a lot more particles, but don't go beyond 2 or 3 because I think it's not necessary. I would rather just reduce the spacing instead of that. So I'll just set the count to 2, and I'll just select everything and just delete that. Now make the brush smaller a bit, and we have to paint some of the particles right over here. Not everywhere, just on parts where we have this sort of angle. Some of them from here, but here I'm going to use some smaller particles. You can combine this, of course. You can make some bigger particles and then some smaller ones, just to simulate like I don't know, part of this edge is like falling apart or something like that. Maybe let me just paint a few bigger ones. I just painted too many, way too many, so let me just do it again. I think we're good to go with the particles. I think they're enough. You can check a PSD file to see how I made them. You can see I just painted a few ones on key places. So here we have lots of vegetation, so it's not necessary to paint there. But here we have a clean background where they will stand out a lot better, so that's why I painted them right over here. And on top of that, it helps to just fill in the scene with some more details and not just have an empty space there. Let's go with the woman with the swing. This is where we will use the calculations technique. So press Ctrl Command O to open your stock folder. Oh, we forgot to add those the rain effect on the window. We'll do that, after we place the woman with the swing. So we have this image. You could use other selection techniques, but I want to show you how you can use calculations to do it, because it's pretty simple. The technique works well for this particular image. Also keep in mind that the background is pretty simple. It's almost a solid color, so it will work. But on images where we have a solid color and lots of details, where we will not be able to go with the pen tool, because if you were to go with the pen tool here and just create a path around every single hole in here, you could spend here maybe 2 hours just selecting the entire chain. So there must be another technique that works better. So in this case I will use calculations. Basically we go to the channels tab, and here you select one of the channels that gives you most contrast between the subject that you want to get out of the background and the background itself. In most cases it's going to be the blue channel, because it's the one that gives you most contrast. If you take a look at the woman and the chain, not as much on the chain as on the woman herself. If you check the red, you can see that everything is pretty gray. And actually, I don't know if the histogram, if the histogram changes, it's not going to give us too much detail, but anyways, visually you can see that the blue channel here, her body is very dark compared to the background. The green also is, but not as much, and by far the red channel is the worst. So we will work with the blue channel. Select it, go to image and choose calculations. What the calculations does is it just grabs channels and mixes them using a blend mode. So we have source 1, source 2, and the blending. Now of course, if you have multiple documents open, you can use a layer from another document, but in our case we just have one. So we will use the channel blue and mix it with the blue channel, so we're mixing the same channel. You can use multiply, or you can try others, and in fact we will use another blend mode. I think vivid light worked well for me. You can try others. For example, you can try subtract, and actually subtract works a lot better because everything here just turns white. So basically I'm add, not subtract. So I'm adding the blue to the blue, but again you can use the vivid light. I don't know, the vivid light or hard light. Vivid light would work better. Now let me try this add, because I think it looks really good. Now we still have some problem over here because the sky is not completely black. Again, let me just undo this because I forgot to mention something. Calculations. Here on the result, make sure you select new channel, because we want the result of this mix to be a new channel, not a new document or a new selection. We want a new channel. Use the settings, click OK, and a new channel named Alpha 1 is going to be created for you. Now we still have to fix this because we're not done yet. So the way we fix the sky here is we can use a trick. First we could use levels. Let's try that. Control L, and we could increase the whites even more, so that the sky, this part of the sky which are really just highlights, increase them to be completely white, just pure white, and maybe the midtones, make them a little darker, and the same over here. Now you will notice that if you zoom in, these parts of the woman's hands are not black. So a way to fix that is a little trick. Use the brush tool and just select another brush, a normal brush like this, and instead of just carefully painting like this with black, because remember we just need the silhouette, because this will actually be a layer mask. So instead of carefully painting like this without trying to just following the lines here, you just have to change the blend mode of the brush to overlay. Now this technique only works when the surrounding background is white. Okay, so when you paint with black, now you can see that even if I paint outside, nothing will happen. See that? It's going to only darken the hand without affecting the background, because the background already has a high enough value of white that the overlay blend mode cannot just go through it, to say it that way. So that's why it works. If you have the inverted image and you paint with white, the same thing will happen. Just paint with white and you will see that I can paint as much as I want, but the background will not be affected. It's only going to affect shades of gray, but not the whites. You can see that the dress here is black, so if I paint here, nothing will happen because I have that blend mode active. So what I'll have to do is, for this particular area, I'll have to use the normal blend mode, which is okay because it's inside of the selection, so I don't have to worry about painting close to an edge. It's a really powerful technique. It's simple, but it's not always going to be as simple for all images. You have to identify the variables that will make it work better than on other images. For example, images where you have chains or fences or stuff like that, this could work, or branches, this could work. Even for hair, works especially well for hair, when you have hair over a solid color and you want to integrate this without losing detail on the hair. So try it and you will be surprised. It takes some time to practice it because there are lots of blend modes, and soon you'll start to see that some of the blend modes work better than others. And using especially the add and subtract blend modes are really powerful, using those threshold settings and the invert settings. I will probably make a more in-depth tutorial about how to work with this technique. If you just comment there on the video if you want me to do that. Now for this part here, I'll just change the blend mode back to normal. I'll just make sure that no skies here and paint with white without any worry, because I'm not close to any edge, just over there. Also keep in mind that this image is really huge, well, huge compared to my canvas where I will put it, so I don't worry too much about the edge being perfectly masked, because when I make this image smaller, nobody will tell that there's actually 1 pixel that was badly masked. So it also really depends on how you work and how big is your canvas or things like that. Now I have my silhouette over here. Let me just go back to the navigator so I can zoom out. And all I need to do now is just select this. The way you do that, Control or Command, hold it and click on the Alpha 1 thumbnail, select RGB, so go back to the color image, go back to the layers and create a layer mask. And the sky is gone. If you do this with the pen tool, you could spend easily half an hour trying to select the chain. Now I will apply the layer mask because I'm happy with it and I already did this a couple of times, so I know it works. I go back to my manipulation and I'll paste the woman on top of the inside background underneath the particles and the plants layers and turn her into a smart object. Let's make her smaller. The size here really depends on how you like her, but I think the smaller she is, the more interesting the image looks like. About there, probably. I would even, well, no, I already have this as a smart object, so I cannot change it easily. I wanted to change a little bit the position, but I cannot do it now because this is a smart object and it's hard to change the position of it now. But anyways, I want the moon to be there. Okay, now what I want to do next is, you can see the chain doesn't reach the top. So the way you do that is using the lasso tool. Let's name this layer girl. It's this layer. Okay, and I will select the part of the chain like so, and with the layer still selected, I will right click and choose layer via copy, and this will create this will just copy this chain on a new layer. I'll press Control Command T because now these two ends are now identical, so I just have to flip it and they will match perfectly. Control T or Command T, right click, flip vertical, and now just rotate this to match more or less the same angle. Let me just zoom in a little more, and I have them ready. And now my chain reaches the top, and it's as easy as that. If you're happy with your girl, you can select both layers and merge them or convert them into a smart object, whatever you prefer. And you could even move it a little more to the side, because now this chain is long enough. And I have to make some adjustments. The first adjustment is a hue saturation adjustment. Actually, I'll turn this into smart object. That way my adjustments will be turned into smart filter. Control U, and just change the hue a little bit to make it more towards red, because the ambient is quite red. And also some curves or levels, whatever you prefer, just to darken the whole thing a little bit, because everything here is silhouetted, so the girl should be almost a silhouette as well, especially the darker side here on the back. And if you want to add some light, you could even add some inner shadow and use this color dodge blend mode with a bright yellow, and just use the size here to create sort of rim light if you want to. So this light here on the chain, but that's really up to you. I also added I don't know if I can, I don't have the image here, a lens flare. So you could create a fake sun back there. The way you do that is just create a new layer underneath the girl, on top of the inside background. Create a new layer, set it, let's try it with screen, and we'll get the brush tool, opacity and flow 100%. Let me see if I have, no, everything is set correctly. We'll create that inverse process, which I mentioned in some of my tutorials. Basically, you start with a darker tone of orange or whatever color you want to create the light. In my case, orange. And I'll have to make a test first. I'll do it with the mouse because it's easier. Yeah, I forgot to reduce the hardness of the brush to 0. Just click once there and it's too dark, so let me do it again. One click there. Now I'll have to use something brighter, make the brush a little smaller, a couple of clicks, create another click there, another tone, make the brush smaller, another click. And actually I have to make it a little more aggressive, so let me just do it again. Start with this brighter tone. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. Now something way brighter, create a new click, and then something almost white in there, and that's my light. Anyways, we will create some more soft lights after we're done editing all of this. But this is our, let's name this sun. Okay, you can use a lens flare if you have a stock image. I have a pack of free lens flare effects. You can use those if you want to. I'll put the link on the video description. What else? Let's add some flying birds. Again, I use the brush for that. You can find it on the resources folder. I'll just go to import brushes and flying birds brushes. This is a pack I created from some flying birds, just photographing them, and then I just turn them into a brush. And I'll actually create this, well, I'll create a new layer, because that way we have everything modular, so we can move things around if we want to. And just paint with black some flying birds like that, and maybe some smaller ones over there. Actually, I'll put the birds underneath the girl, like so. Paint them wherever you want. If you want to paint them here, you can do that as well. The next thing I want to do is add some effects, some glows, but before we do that, let's go back to the base group, because I forgot to add that rain effect. The window here looks kind of too flat. Actually, it doesn't even seem like there's a window there. So what I will do is just open one of the textures that you'll find here. This one over here. This is a water texture. Also from pexels.com. It's a really wonderful site to get all sorts of stock images. Actually, I have an account there where I upload renders and stuff like that, which you might find useful for your manipulations. And I'll place this texture on top of the city, on top of this, underneath the hair and the base layer. So paste that over there. Of course we have to make it smaller because it's too big. Something like that. And now I'll duplicate this with Control J or Command J, right click and choose flip horizontal, because these edges are identical and they will look perfect once we put them together, as you can see. Okay, now I'm gonna select both of them, press Control E or Command E to merge them, and create another copy of that, drag it down and flip it vertically. I just want to make sure that I have no lines in between, so they are perfectly matching where they meet, okay, where they on the joint. Now here with this texture we're going to change the blend mode to screen. This will get rid of all the black parts, and we will only see these droplets where we have more dark parts of this background of that city over there. If you want to see less of these droplets, what you can do is use curves or levels and just darken this a little more, something like that. We just need a hint that it's actually a window and it's raining outside. You don't have to have like a storm here on the screen. Just a few droplets and that will be enough. Okay, now let's go on and add those glows of light. I'll create a new layer on top of everything. So outside of any of the groups, on top of everything, just create a new layer and name it glows. And set this to on screen. Change the blend mode of it to screen. Get the brush tool, use a soft brush, and start sampling colors. For example, I want to create a glow over there, but this is too strong. Keep in mind that the objective here is to make like a color spill. So in other words, I want that color to get outside of the shape. Okay, so if you paint with a really strong color, you can see I'm painting with this dark tone, and when the light hits that black, it's really visible. So if you use something really strong like this, it's not going to look really that nice. So paint with something rather dark, like that. One click over there, another click over here. And here I wouldn't paint too much. Actually, let me just see if it works, and if it doesn't, we will not paint anything here. Well, not looking bad. Okay, especially here on the moon. And also here on the face of the girl, we will use a really dark tone of gray. One click there and another one there. And something just a touch brighter right over here, like that. Okay, take a look before and after. Just a little bit of a glow of light to just give something, to create something a bit more vibrant. And now we're done with this. I'll create a new layer on top of everything, and I'll just merge everything. Now you know that I like to use this technique. Shift Option Command E or Shift Alt Control E if you're on Windows. I'll turn this into a smart object. By the way, you'll find a few textures here on the resources folder, which I'll show you in just a second, to just add a bit more particles. And with this layer active, I'll go to filter and I'll use the camera raw filter. I really like to use this the camera raw filter to just like give the final touch. And here probably your camera raw is a little different than mine, but you have the same sliders. I will not touch the color or the vibrance. I will just increase the texture. This is a new slider, maybe you don't have it, but increase the clarity a bit. And the dehaze, now I will actually use negative value just to give it a bit of a dreamy effect. And what else? Probably here on the split toning, I will add a tone to my highlights, really subtle, a bluish or reddish tone. And on the shadows, I want to have some reddish tone, a red tone, just 7 on the saturation, not much more than that. And on the highlights, something a little more blue. Okay, so this contrast between color and black and white, I like it. So that's why I actually maybe not even use split toning at all. So just use really low values, like 1 or 2. And on the effects, I will add vignetting, of course, with the low midpoint, protect the highlights, and grain. I will add some grain because I like how it looks like. I'll zoom in at 100% so I can see what I'm doing. So I'll increase the grain, pretty rough, and the size, well, about there I think is okay. It's going to give it a like a movie type of effect. I don't know, I like it. And that's it. And on the camera calibration, what you can do is just shift the tones on the colors here if you want to do that. Just get different tones or saturation on each channel, so you can get some really crazy tones here. I will leave it like so and click OK. You will notice that I also added some musical notes here. It's really simple. I use the font for that, which I think it's called Musings or something like that. The font is called Musing, something like that. But you can use PNG images or whatever you want. Just place a few notes there and that's it. I just wanted to add some more stuff there, and also some particles, some dust particles. You will find 3 stock images here, dust 1, 2, and 3. I'll just add this one just so you can see what I did. Just copy it and paste it over there. Let me rotate it and make it bigger. Place it there, and I have this on, this is black, so I have to use the screen blend mode to get rid of the black background. But if you have it on, you can also reverse it if you want to have dark particles instead of these white ones. Just invert the image with Control-I and use the multiply blend mode, and that way you will have black particles instead of white particles, but make sure you move them around so you have some variation. And this will help to fill the scene in a little more. I have some red tones here, that's from Camera Raw, I'm sure, or something. I don't really like it, so I would probably use like a hue saturation adjustment and desaturate the whole thing and invert the slither mask. And now with the brush I would paint in around here to just get rid of those red spots, and that's it. And make sure that my particles here reach outside of my canvas because I could see the edge there. And that's it. That's how I made this manipulation. I think it's not really difficult, and the good thing of this kind of manipulations is that you can, inside of here, you can add whatever you want. Just a simple photo, or you can just make like a mini manipulation inside of it, just like what I did here, but that's really up to you. I really want to see what you can come up with, and just use the hashtag PSDBulk if you use Instagram, or just mention me, or just send me a DM on my personal account, which is Andrei Oprinca, or on my on the profile of PSDBulk. That's really up to you. Thanks for watching, and Happy New Year, and I hope to see you on my next tutorial.